Good evening and welcome to Hamden Action Now. I'm Rhonda Caldwell, and this is Race Talk Saturday. This is our best program of the week. Today we have a very, very special guest. We have Cornell Lewis. He is the leader of the Self Defense Brigade out of Hartford, Connecticut area. And you know what we're going to talk about tonight is something that's very, very important. It's having security and activism when you're scheduling a rally or a protest of any type of sort or a march. You know, the way the times have changed, everybody needs to understand it is time to talk about having security available and to talk about security measures for your group, your protesters, and also the leadership. It's just, we're going to talk about that tonight. The times have changed and we have to really protect the people around us when we're marching. So stay tuned. It's going to be very informative and very important talk about security and activism today.
Let's go! Ho, ho!
Hello and welcome. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I know you were watching those videos in our little intro and saying,
Yes,
holy crap, you guys didn't have any security. And we didn't. Well, I mean, we had the police and the state police, but we didn't have any private security.
Well, I was looking at some of the videos, some of the activists that I work with. I recognized them in the crowd. That's what I was looking at. And I noticed that there was not any security, right? Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody means well. Like, I mean, obviously, we all, you know, we're all excited. You know, last year, you know, George Floyd happened, and everybody, you know, inboxing me saying, "Is Hamden Action Now? Are we going to have a rally or a march or something?" And I knew we were going to do something, but you know, we spend so much time planning. You know, who's going to speak, the speaker's orders, you know, the route of the march. But you know, a lot of times, and most of the times, in my experience, we don't talk about, you know, security. Who's gonna, you know, how do we communicate with each other? What happens if there's an active shooter? I mean, on January 6th, you know, we already saw what happens. You know, and then, you know, now we have this horrific incident with the Asian community down in Georgia. You know, the times have changed. We no longer can just focus on just the speakers and the march and the venue and all the really, you know, the things that you know, you have to include security. So you could tell us a little bit about what the Self Defense Brigade does if I were to call you and say we're going to have a march down Dixwell Avenue.
Well, the Self Defense Brigade is dedicated to making sure that people that are engaged in the fight for egalitarian rights in America, ending racism, oppression against Black and brown people, and our gay brothers and sisters and other oppressed people. The Self Defense Brigade is dedicated to making sure that we are able to protect ourselves when we are out at these rallies. That means knowing how to fight, when to fight, and how to look for trouble as it is approaching from afar and when it is near. And so, say for instance, you called the Self Defense Brigade and wanted to discuss security up in Hamden. First of all, we would ask what kind of rally would it be? Then we would ask where it was going to be held at. A lot of people want to have rallies where the advantage is to the counter protesters. So the Self-Defense Brigade would have to look at the area, assess it, and see if it's viable to have the Self-Defense Brigade come up and actually host and have security for that particular rally.
So, I mean, so what, I mean, it really, you have to plan it. I mean, we
Yes,
would have to tell you what our route is going to be, how many people we can expect. Again, we don't know.
yeah. Um, we would come up and with you or whomever, of course, we would go over the route. Um,
Hmm.
there have been times when people had a route planned out that was advantageous to the enemy, to the counter protesters. And we would say,
Right.
hey, listen, we can't have a rally in this particular spot because if something happened, we would get boxed in.
Mm,
So we have to have a rally where it's open, we can see in two or three directions, and there's something in back of us so that our opponents can't gain that advantage. So then you have to look at the places where you can enter the rally route and then how you can get out. You just can't
right.
have a rally and not know how to get into the rally and leave. And then there are other little things like having people watch the vehicles. That's all they do, watch the vehicles of the protesters, because our opponents often put little strips of tacks behind a tire or something like that. And if your vehicle can't get out of there because it has a flat tire, then you're in trouble if we have to get
You
out of
see,
there quick.
and this is what, we don't, I can't say, I can just speak for myself and my group. We don't really talk a lot about these kind of things, about counter protesters. I mean, and it needs to be talked about. It's a discussion that needs to be had because there are people who are counter, we advertise it. We'll put it on Facebook and
Mm-hmm,
Twitter and Instagram. We'll have a flyer saying, yo, we're going to have a function in support of, George Floyd and,
mm-hmm.
and protest of whatever. The counter protesters see those flyers too clearly. And now, you have to be fearful. And I was concerning for me last year during our march on June 7th is that we had small kids there. We have little
Mm-hmm.
kids, my little child who's not 18 years old or over. She's a young almost teenage kid. And so you have all these people who are there and you feel, I've invited you to this venue. So I feel somewhat responsible to make sure that, everyone's safe. We also partner with, at this point that last year, because we knew, a great deal of people were going to show up with the police department. I spoke to the chief and they contacted the state police and whatnot, but still, to have, a detail of security in the crowd, very important.
Yeah, it is. It is important to have your own security because there have been times when the group Power Up has gone to different towns to protest, and the police actually let some of the counter protesters, reeking of alcohol,
What?
come over and do some things to the protesters in the Power Up group. That's the name of it, Power Up. And
Mm-hmm.
then after a few blows were exchanged, then they tried to be peacemakers. But they allow certain things like that to happen. So even though you talk with the police and you tell them about the route and all of that other stuff and your plans, what time is going to start, what time is going to end, you can't depend on the police because I'll be quite honest, many of the opponents of people of color and the oppressed are within the police department. That has been talked about after January 6th and
6.
the incident
Yes.
at the U.S. Capitol. However, people of color have been saying this for years, and
Exactly.
the white power structure has said, "Oh, that's anecdotal evidence." We say, "No, it's true." Now it's being shown to be true, and so you can talk with the people in power, but if you depend on a lion or a jackal to be with you and you're a sheep or a chicken, then you have a problem because You have to understand these groups are part of the powered structure, and
They are.
they owe their allegiance to those who support them. I think it was Mark Twain who said, "Show me where a man gets his corn pone at, and I'll show you where his head is." And so a lot of these groups get their sustenance from the power structure, and it is foolish for us to believe that the people connected with the power structure are actually going to help us. So I am not a big advocate, number one, let me just say this, of telling the police which route we're going to take. No.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a big supporter of putting a lot of stuff on Facebook, even though some of the people I work with do that. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu writes this, let your plans be as impenetrable as night, and then descend on your enemies like a thunderbolt. So
Right.
our plans need to be hidden. And if we're going to march, let's march. If we're going to protest, let's protest. When will the power structure find out? When we hit the streets.
That's right.
They'll know then. And that's the only time they should know. But this is an age where people want to post everything, and that gives your opponent an advantage. Sun Tzu said, know your enemy, know yourself. We need to study those people that we're fighting against and not give them any advantage whatsoever. So when the Self Defense Brigade plans something, we go through all of this with the people that we are planning. Now, you have to understand that a lot of people have a tendency to do a lot of intersectionalism and bring other people into the mix. And when you have that, then you have a watering down of the true agenda of what your rally is all about. So often Black and brown people connect with other groups, and by the time we get to the rally, we're talking about things and doing things that has nothing to do with the Black and the brown agenda or egalitarian rights and ending endemic racism here in America. We're talking about 8 or 9 other things. So one of the things we do with the Self Defense Brigade is we find out who's partnering with the people that ask us to come up and do security. And if it looks as if there's going to be a conflict of worldviews, then we bow out. We won't do it, because to us, we have to recognize who we're fighting and what we're fighting for and what the opponent is willing to do to us.
Right.
And once we recognize that, then we make plans accordingly. For instance, every rally that the Self Defense Brigade is part of, we have people with us that are legally armed, and they show up and they're under my command. We are disciplined. My motto is no talk, just action. So when we go to a rally, say for instance, we came to Hamden working with you, we would inform, if they ask, we would let them know we have our weapons with us.
That's right.
And that is legal. We're not showing you any papers, because you don't ask the MAGA people for their documents when they bring their guns. So we're not showing you ours. Suffice it to say we have them and we have the paperwork. That's number one. Number two, we let the opponents that might be chirping, saying that they're going to try to subvert the rally that you have, we let them know we're coming in peace. We don't want any conflict. If you do something, we will try to deflect it or diffuse what is going on. But make no mistake, if you spit, hit, or hurt anybody that is part of this rally, we will deal with you. And we will deal with you in a fashion that leaves no question that we're serious. And we tell that to every group that we go to and every rally that we have. And we've never had a problem like a lot of these other groups because they're not clear. They want to be liked by everybody. We're not trying to be liked. We're trying to protect ourselves, our people, and the people in the rally. So we went to Ashford, for instance, last year. The KKK, the skinheads, and the white supremacists told me, Cornell, don't bring your black so-and-so up to Ashford. We went, let the state police know when they asked if we were coming, yes, and here's what we're prepared to do. I told the lieutenant governor, Susan Bisowitz, yes, we're going up there. We've been asked to come up there and have a rally, and here's what we're prepared to do if they attack us. When I got to the rally, I introduced myself, the Self Defense Brigade, and said, we're here, and we understand that a man who desires peace must prepare for war.
Amen.
We want peace, but we're prepared to defend ourselves. So make no mistake, those of you who think about doing something, that we do not follow the policies of Martin Luther King. If you touch us, if you spit on us, if you try to hurt anybody with us, you will regret the day that you were born. And that is justice in the eyes of Almighty God. Lo and behold, the skinheads, the racists, and the white supremacists stood across the road and they glared at us. You know why? Because we had 10 people there, 8 of them were armed, and the most accurate and the most heavily armed were 2 black women, one who stood on my left side, one who stood on my right side. We had people at every point leading up to the speaker's platform. And when they came, they looked, and you could see in their eyes, they were thinking about coming up there. But I made it clear, if you come up here, don't expect us to ask God to deliver us from you. We're going to deliver ourselves from your hand. And then we're going to pray for you as we take you to the emergency room. That's what we told them.
You know, that's the only way it works. Yes. That's the only way it works, I think. Because I think, you know, they feed off of intimidation and scaring people. And then with the scaring of people, it stops people from coming out. They say, oh, I don't want to come out because I don't want any trouble. And I know the Oath Keepers and the 3%ers and the QAnon folk going to be out there. And I don't.
Well, they can come, Rhonda. They can come. They can come. They can watch. We even allow them to comment, but we make it clear. If you come up near this platform, you got a problem. If you do A, B, and C, there's going to be a problem. Now, we went out to Windsor Locks last year. Some young ladies asked us to come out there in their 20s. They wanted us to help them because they couldn't get anybody to put a rally together in remembrance of George Floyd. Before we got there, Rhonda, they put it on Facebook. The white racists got on Facebook and had pictures of big trucks with protesters bouncing off the grill of the truck and blood. And these racists did not try to hide their names. I said, oh, okay. So we had to inform the police, we're being threatened, and here's what we're prepared to do if they show up. Sure enough, they showed up with their Trump flags and their American flags on their trucks and the big wheels. and we looked at them. We got there early. Me and the defense team. We just looked. They didn't come near the rally because it was clear. Here's what we're going to do. Before every rally, Rhonda, we tell people we're armed, we're here to protect, and here's what we would like for you to understand. And part of the problems we might have is this. A lot of people want to interfere in the security work. And we have to tell them, listen, if you are a follower of Gandhi or Martin Luther King, I respect that. But please do not get in the way. I'm telling you, if that man reaches in his pocket and you get in the way talking about, I'm trying to be a witness, and he comes out with something, you're going to get hurt and I'm going to get hurt. So we have to tell people at the rallies ahead of time, do not get in the way. You're going to be problematic. Stay out of the way and let us do our job. Because a lot of people want to be brokers of peace. And we don't need that when somebody is trying to go into their pockets or making strange gesticulations in the midst of what it is that we're doing.
I have, I know that you mentioned that we all saw the video of Corinne Prescott from Power Up being spit on January 6th at the Capitol. And matter of fact, shortly after that, I had her come on and tell us about her experience. And I think the thing that, the point you made is that, she was coming out to, support and talk about and try to, not a protest, but she was trying to have a rally for, the legislators who were going in that day to be sworn in. And this woman, like you said, the Trumpers were there, and she just rolled up next to her. She had a baby in her hands, or whatever she had in her hand, looked like a baby. And then she just kind of went over there and just kind of spit in her face and then took off running. And the cops were standing right there. I mean, they were standing right there. They watched the whole thing unfold. I mean, you see, on the video that she shared.
They also walked the woman into the building because she said she was afraid.
She was afraid. She was the one that spit on you, but she's afraid. See, this is what I'm talking about.
And they escorted her into the building for protection. Yeah.
And if you had more people there, and it really could have gotten impassioned, down here in Hamden or New Haven. I mean, could you imagine the brawl and the bloodshed that could have broken out after that incident? But my point I'm making is that the emboldenedness, the emboldened culture that's present today in folk that, feel like they can roll up to you in the middle of a protest and spit in your face. And I agree.
Part of that comes from the fact that for a long time, the narrative has been that members of the oppressed must turn the other cheek, or how can I put it? They must somehow or another change the heart and the morality of the oppressor so that they can become more human. And I say that is foolish talk, because if America had a morality or a heart after 400 years of what they've done to Black folk, they would have changed by now. They haven't.
How many more years do you need?
Yeah, they're not going to. Okay. And so the narrative has been that we have to change America to understand the condition that we're going through. And see, that narrative has seeped into the public domain until people like that woman that spit on my friend Corinne actually think that they can do that and there will be no repercussions.
Right.
See, that we're going to forgive them. And see, I can understand forgiving somebody if they show a true repentance. But a lot of the people we're fighting and a lot of the people that we oppose, they have shown no kind of repentance. And the fact that a lot of our leaders keep harping on the fact that we have to somehow or another go along with the narrative of turning the other cheek and winning the hearts and minds of our oppressors has led to the point where our opponents think in their brain that if they do this to us, then they're just going to do A, B, and C. Nothing else is going to happen. And see, that has to change. That kind of thinking and that narrative and that kind of planning that leaders put forth, to me, is criminal, because it does not take into account that the opposition we face, they've changed their strategy. And anybody in military tactics will tell you, when your enemy changes tactics, you have to change tactics. Now, what those tactics are depend on you. We're still talking about we shall overcome. No, change the lyrics. Give me the remix. We shall overrun. That's what we should be talking about.
Yes.
We keep talking about, can we all get along? No. Give me what I want, or I'm going to take it. That's right. That's it. Now, we've begged, we've pleaded, we've cried, we've done a little shuffle, a little soft shoe, and all that other kind of stuff. And America still has not given us the same respect that she gives other ethnic groups, or maybe some people. So what are we to do in this type of condition? No, we're not going to continue to be like those people in that church in Charleston, where Dylan Ruth came in and shot those people, praying to the same God that people tell us will deliver us. Okay, God's going to deliver us. Well, in the Old Testament, God always answered the cry of the oppressed. That's what I learned in theological school. In 400 years, I would have to ask the question, where is God in our existential reality today? I'm looking up in the sky. I have not seen God. I didn't see him in Charlotte, in Charleston, South Carolina, when he shot those people. Nor did I see God when Derek Chauvin had his knee on the neck of George Floyd and he calling out for his mama. So we cannot depend on a deity in the sky to save us. We have to save ourselves. That does not mean that if you look for spiritual uplifting, that you can't look to a superior being. But for me, if there is a God, you know what? I'm going to do what I have to do, and then I'll deal with the consequences in the so-called heaven later. But I got to save myself before I look to the heavens and wait for some deity to save me, because we're catching hell now, and I don't see anybody coming to the rescue except us.
You know what I always find interesting? I'm so interesting that you would say that, because, when Jacob Blake was shot in the back by the police out there, I always find it interesting how their mothers, I'm a mother.
Yes.
And how they get on TV and in front of the, the news cameras, and all the microphones are all set up and whatnot. And they go, well, God tells me that I'm supposed to forgive. I forgive the officers who did this. There's no way in hell I have any forgiveness in my heart for a police officer that shoots my child in the back.
And
or shoots my child, period.
Yeah,
that's that thing. That's that thing you're talking about. Like,
that's part of that narrative that has been perpetrated upon our people as a result of the embracing of Christianity. And like I said, man has always looked to something higher than himself to explain what goes on in this universe. I'm okay with that. But if you're telling me to depend on a deity, whether it's the deity of Plato, the demiurge or the universal Geist or the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. If you're asking me to believe in something like that, then I have to see a manifestation of that deity in my life. And at this point, after what we're going through still in America today, I have not seen that. So for me, I think the Self Defense Brigade has the right approach. We train people in hand-to-hand combat. We train people in strategy. We train people what to do when they go out at these rallies. And we tell people to make sure they get their Second Amendment rights in order before the laws are changed, making it impossible for us to do that. And then we go out to these rallies with armed security under discipline to make sure that people that look like you and I and other people that are with us are not intimidated or not hurt. And I have to say that the Self Defense Brigade has never had an incident of being attacked or having to worry about counter protesters. Now, a lot of my friends go out on these rallies and they catch pure D hell because they go out there with the old paradigm. You know, we're going because our cause is just. Okay. Well, what about those people that don't care about your cause? What about those people that are willing to hurt you and hurt those that you love? That is what you have to be concerned with. And again, I state that our leaders and so-called leaders who perpetrate that kind of a narrative on the population, I believe they're committing a criminal act by doing that because they are not preparing the people for the reality of the situation that they face. And they will say,
now, isn't that the point?
Yeah,
isn't that the point? Like, if you don't set your group up, you know, like you set them up for failure, really. And I'm guilty of this, like I said, because if you don't talk about, you know, security, what's the plan to get out of there? How, you know, where, you know, Heather Heyer was killed in Charlottesville, you know, when, you know, no one had anything planned. And this guy, like you said, this member of, I'm not too sure what group, but he rolled this car right through and mowed the crowd down. And this poor woman at the end of the day was dead, you know? So, you know, my point I'm making is, like you said, you know, you really set yourself up, your group, you know, everybody that has come out for failure and possible being hurt or even worse, killed at the end of one of these events, if you don't have a plan for your own personal security.
And not only that, you can't go to these rallies and events as if they're a social outing.
No.
People go to these things and I hear them talking about guacamole salad and all of this other stuff and recipes for quiche, Lorraine, and, you know, roast beef and au jus sauce. And I'm looking like nobody's looking around. You laugh. I'm serious.
I can't even get over that.
And so we have people who are trained. Their only job is to look at the environment while we are there and to let us know if they see anything that looks suspicious. We have people walking through the crowd continuously, looking and listening. And if they see something, they give the signal at that particular time that we know that gets our attention and we deal with the problem. So you just can't go to these events like I see a lot of people doing, and they're not even aware of what is going on around them. That is when you get yourself and other people hurt, and that is a recipe for disaster. I've seen people let counter protesters walk up to them, get behind them, and get and mix in their crowd. So if something jumps off, Rhonda, they're already there.
Yeah.
You see, that shouldn't happen. The security forces should stop that before it takes place. So the Self Defense Brigade does these types of things, and it teaches people all over the state how to do this so that they are prepared and they can do this for themselves and not get themselves and anybody else hurt.
Yeah, I mean, when we had it was a lot of people showed up on last year, June 7th, and the way our town hall is set up here in Hamden, they were not able to walk up on the steps where the speakers were, where I was standing, because like you said, Cornell, we have to stop being naive. I mean, there's so many people out there that absolutely hate the things that comes out of my mouth. They hate it. Because, it's the thing of, I'm not allowed to speak unapologetically Black. I'm not allowed to speak, in support and in solidarity with Black and brown and indigenous people who have been the most oppressed in the history of oppression. And so when I speak in these terms, I mean, really, there is a very serious threat at these valleys. It's a credible existential threat to our safety in our life. And then we on top of it, we bring our kids, so we have our kids and we're a long way from the car. Nobody knows where the cars are and how, the motors aren't running, so you have, these people who, and then you invite dignitaries like Susan Bicewitz and, Kika Matos and various very important people to come and speak. And we don't even have a plan to secure them to make sure that they can come in, say their speech and leave and be safe on their way out, back to their vehicle. And I just want to encourage everybody statewide to call the Self Defense Brigade and talk with them and get training and even get them to come into your program and some of your events, because it's just, we're on borrowed time.
We are. And not only are we on borrowed time, we need to understand something, that anytime the Nazis, the skinheads, and the white supremacists can come together against us, and they hate each other, and they come together against people of color and other people, you have to remember the words of Shakespeare. It is time to fear when tyrants seem to kiss. These people are kissing and making act like they're making love with each other because they are united in their dislike and hatred for people of color and those that they figure are threatening white supremacy. White supremacy is threatened, and historically, anytime it is threatened, it reaches out in this country and it destroys. Am I just talking anecdotally? No, listen to this. From the office of the Director of National Intelligence, March 17th, 2021. There's a paper that reads, "Domestic violence and extremism poses heightened threat in 2021. Point number one, violent extremists motivated by political or racial bias pose an elevated threat to the United States this year. Point number two, the report came 2 months after January 6th, when a mob stormed the U.S. Capitol building. FBI Director Christopher Wray said that the January the 6th siege of the U.S. State Capitol was an act of domestic terrorism. And so domestic violence, extremism, and people that are part of it are also linking up with foreign terrorists. And there's a possibility they may be getting ready to commit acts of domestic terrorism on U.S. soil. Now, that comes from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and they put that out March of this year. Domestic violence and extremism poses a heightened threat in 2021. So now, if they're saying this, then we need to take precautions based not only on what they say, but what we're seeing as we're going around marching. We didn't need a group of white folks in Washington to tell us that we're being threatened by domestic terrorists. We know this. And so,
Right.
but now that they've gotten on the same page and finally decided to say it in a paper, 4 or 5 page paper, we need to take note and to protect ourselves, because I'm telling you now, there are a lot of people in this country who don't want to see us and people like us in any form of power. And when white supremacy is threatened in America, it does the same thing it has always done historically. It lashes out and it destroys, because it does not want to relinquish that favored, privileged status that they have always enjoyed. And if we don't understand that, and if we keep listening to that old narrative that these leaders are throwing out, then a lot of us won't be here, very much longer, because our enemies are emboldened and they are taking measures to make sure that we get the message, stay in your place.
You see, in this, I'm so happy you read that. I'm so happy you read that, because that is so important. This is your federal government.
Mm-hmm.
Your federal government is telling you this is a credit. And then the part of that reading here that says that you have foreign terrorists that are linking up with domestic terrorists.
White
now, see, I always said that.
Mm-hmm. White
I said that.
Domestic,
yes,
white domestic terrorism. People are linking up with foreign terrorists to try to either recruit or to get them to help them promote the white nationalist ideology.
Exactly.
So,
and you see what I mean by that. See, my point, and I said this on January 6th and I was watching this whole thing unfold on TV. I said on January 6th, I said, can you imagine? Do you think for 1 second the foreign terrorists are not going to reach out to these people? Everybody knows where to find them. They're all on social media, videotaping themselves while they were doing it. So they're easy to find and say, listen, I will finance you. I will finance you and train you to go and do that again a little better next time, a lot better next time.
Yes, and we have to understand that the foreign terrorists have an agenda against America. The domestic terrorists in this country, they have an agenda against Black, brown, gay, trans, and other people that they designate the other. So the old military saying goes like this: the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
That's right.
And the domestic terrorists, extremists, and the foreign terrorists are linking up because they have a common hatred. The foreign terrorists hate America. The domestic terrorists hate the people that look like us, brown and Black, who seem to be gaining power. Therefore, they're linking up. And that is why that saying by Shakespeare is so essential. Beware, it is time to fear when tyrants seem to kiss. When they kiss and they're hugging and they seem like they're making love, then it's time for all of us to be afraid, because they're up to no good. And it's time for us to realize that we have to understand that this democracy that we live under gave birth to and nurtures this endemic racism that we live under. And it is time for us to understand that we need to do something. I propose that we disrupt, we dismantle, and then we disperse democracy, because it is the thing that gave birth to this hideous monster called endemic American racism. And people don't want to acknowledge that. And I know why, because a lot of our so-called leaders get their sustenance and they get their food and they eat from the same democracy. And this democracy is destroying our people. So what do we need to do? We need to do something to dismantle this thing so that something else can replace it, because it is not working for us. It's like that old song by Smokey Robinson. If that don't do, then we'll try something new. You know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean,
Go ahead.
you know, when you talk about our criminal justice system,
Well, not
our
only the criminal
economic
justice,
system, our
not only that,
economic system, I mean, all of it is just, it's never worked for, it wasn't designed to work for us.
and it's
None
not
of it.
working for us. But for some reason, people refuse to acknowledge that fact. It's almost like watching the peanut, peanut comic strip character Linus. He holds on to that blanket. That blanket is democracy. Okay, Linus can be people of color and other people. Take that blanket from Linus, he's lost. Take democracy from these so-called black and brown leaders, they are lost. It is the only thing they know. It is the only thing that has ever supported them, and they are reluctant to give it up and to look for something else. So they tell us to look up in the sky and wait for a savior. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, George Floyd, Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, the list goes on and on and on, and there never seems to be an end to it.
And let's not even talk about Ahmaud Arbery.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. He got gunned down in the middle of the street while he was being chased like an animal. And these people went home. They went home, and they went home for months until the story broke.
Broke. So we need to wake up, and all over the country, we need to form armed self-defense units, because in the long run, nobody else is going to save us but us. Our survival is based on us, and we have to understand that, and we have to be prepared for that.
Yes. I mean, let's just tell the truth. I just see some of these comments in here from Black and Brown United in Action. People from Connecticut were at the January 6th insurrection. I mean, let's talk about, there was a whole bus. There was a whole bus, and you could do a sign-up sheet or whatever to go and get on the bus and go to DC to the rally listen, I've been on numerous protests and rallies and functions. I never went with bear spray. I never went with stuff to build a gallows. I never went with, tasers and all. We went with a little sign. Oh, we went, you went down there like and this is just the beginning. And so CJ also said, tell my guy Cornell I said hi.
Yeah, I know CJ. Hello, CJ. I know you're watching. She got some dialogue for me probably when this is over.
Yes.
Well, let me just also
because
say
we're going to keep talking, but you're absolutely correct. I just want to say you're absolutely correct.
Okay.
The democracy that we speak of, the one in which that our vote is supposed to count and our voice is supposed to matter, has not mattered. And in 2021, it's still not mattering. And when it looked like it began to matter, then you have January 6th.
And not only that, after Black people turned out in record numbers to vote for the great white savior once again, the Republicans are trying to change the narrative so we can't vote.
Right.
Because they are mad that a Democrat won the presidential election. So even when you win, you lose.
You lose.
And so this is what mystifies me to a certain extent. Why are Black people and brown people in denial like they are? They are in denial. And I think the reason is because if you accept the fact of what you see, this hideousness, this endemic racism in America, then that means you have to do something about it.
Oh.
And that means if you do something about it, you may have to fight, you may have to sacrifice, you might have to die. People are not ready to do that in some respects yet. So they would rather live with the lie then fight what it is right before them. And what's even more monstrous is that they perpetrate that regurgitated claptrap coming out of their mouth onto the population of people. And you got people buying into that stuff, thinking that things are going to get better. And then in a few months, another incident. Then in a few months, another incident. And now the evil that is perpetrated upon us almost always is being perpetrated upon our Asian brothers and sisters because they are different. So the monster is going from group to group, from item to item, to make the point that they want white supremacy to remain, and they will do whatever it takes to make sure that they stay in power, even turning on their own people to ensure it. And that's what happened January the 6th. Now, let me just say this, and then I'll be quiet. Our Black brothers and sisters need to wake up, and also our white allies need to wake up also. Either you're with us or you're not with us. When we get out there and we're marching and we're protesting, that can be compared to being in Africa on the Serengeti Plain. When you get out there on the Serengeti Plain, the lion is coming, or the lions are coming, and they're going to attack. And a lot of our white brothers and sisters, many of them have gone to jail with me and protested with me, and we love them. But there are some who are hedging their bets. We are having serious conversations, Rhonda, about whether to exclude that group from protesting with us because they are in the way. They're into their feelings. Oh, I have a feeling I want to share. I don't have time for your feelings, Jethro Bodine. I don't have time for your feelings, Miss Ann.
Lord.
It's time to get with the program because the enemy is out here. And I refuse, as part of the Self Defense Brigade, to indulge in a Dr. Phil moment or an Oprah moment, with a lot of these white allies who are into their feelings. And you can go back to your manicured lawns in your suburbs and feel safe. And you and I, Ron, and people like us are ducking and dodging and trying to exist. It is time for our white allies to make a choice. Are you with us or are you not? Or as the old jazz song goes, is you is or is you ain't my baby.
Right? Are you in it or you're not? Yeah, I mean, and you can't be, oh my God, let's not talk about the feelings. Everybody's always in their feelings.
What about the work? You into your feelings, man. And we got to spend time massaging you to get you in shape so that you can fight. Tell you what, if you can't get a hold of your feelings, then stand off to the side. Let me fight by myself because I'll stand a better chance.
Well, you can't spend all your time trying to, massage them and get them to understand and believe. And, I don't have time, I'd like to, I massage and I control and I try to, encourage people as best I can. But after a certain point, I got to, we got to keep it moving. There's too much work to get done. I mean, people are dying in the streets. And I think there's going to be a lot more of that if we don't really take a stand, like you said, and be ready to fight back for
here's what we
our
have
own
to do,
safety.
Rhonda. We have to make a decision as freedom fighters. We have to, and I've already started to do this. I've started to cut people loose and disengage from people who are not with the agenda that I'm talking about. We don't have the time and the luxury. And so where I may know you and I may like you, if you're impeding progress, then I have to say, I'll see you later. This is where we part company. And I've already started to do that with people that I know, Black, white, male, female. I like them. I know them. But you know what? You're not contributing to what it is that's going on. So you do your thing and you leave me alone and I'll do my thing. That's the tough decision we have to make as freedom fighters in America. We can't allow these people that are dragging their heels to continue to want to be part of a movement when they want to, or keep coming with their feelings, or keep promoting a narrative of turning the other cheek that doesn't work. We need to get away from them, let them do their thing. And I know one thing for certain, when it gets tight, when the enemy is looking down their throat and breathing on the back of their necks, they don't look to God. They want to know where the Self Defense Brigade is.
Yes, they want to know where you are.
Yeah,
like, okay,
they want to know where our people are.
Cornell's not here.
Yeah, they ask for us all the time. Where's Cornell? Well, no, you said that you had a good rapport with the power structure. Okay, you go to them. And so, yeah, we need to make a clear delineation on who's with us or who is not with us. And if they're not with us, we have to say farewell. We don't wish you any harm, but we don't want anything else to do with you. And we may have known you 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, 4 months, 3 months. Bye.
Hey, you know, because you're going to get somebody hurt. Because if you're in the way, you're going to get somebody hurt. If you're in the way, being in your feelings, you know, because their feelings are hurt or their feelings are feeling some type of way, you're going to get somebody hurt, especially if we're out at a rally or at a protest or in a public venue, you know, trying to have, a movement of some sort. And you want to come over and talk about your feelings. No, we don't have time to talk about your feelings. You have to move on.
You know, Rhonda, I've come to this conclusion. Well, let me just put it like this. I really don't care about anybody's feelings. I don't. I care about the agenda. Now, now, in the last few years, I've tried to understand where people were coming from and listen with a sympathetic ear. But at the end of the day, I don't care. I care about the agenda. I'm like Bill Belichick. Do your job.
That's
or
right.
Get somebody who will.
That's right.
You know, and that's how I feel about that. You know, like I say, in the last few years, I've tried to say, okay, well, let me listen. Let me try to be sympathetic. But I don't have the time. I never have. And people think I'm insensitive. They think I'm antisocial. I don't care about your feelings or what you want to do or don't want to do. I'm only interested in promoting the agenda. And when I go to these rallies, that's what people see. They don't see me talking. They don't see me laughing. They see me on my job, looking, observing. And when our job is over at the rally, we disappear like a ghost in twilight. People say, we didn't see you leave. You weren't supposed to because our job is through. And that's how we do. We come in, we do our job, and then we leave. All of the chit chat and the schmoozing, as they call it, and the exchanging of recipes and all that other stuff.
Lord,
that's for
have
somebody
mercy.
else. Hey, man, I don't want no guacamole salad. I don't want no quiche Lorraine. You know, don't tell me about no devil's food cake recipe. I'm here to promote social justice and then get out of here. And that's all I am here to do. You asked me to come do a job. We did the job, and now we leave. Well, Cornell, we think that was rude. You could have said goodbye.
No, you're fine.
Why?
Why?
Does it promote the agenda? Well, where were you born, Cornell? What that got to do with me protecting you? What school did you go to? What has that got to do with me protecting you? You know, are you engaged in this or that? Why?
Why do you
does that help promote the agenda? Well, see, this is social chit chat. This is stuff that people call normal. But out there on the battlefield, there's no time for chit chat. I don't care about where you were born, what school you went to. I don't care if you got 6 toes or 4 fingers. Do your job. That's all I care about.
I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, and if we stick to the agenda, you know, feelings shouldn't get hurt. feel it shouldn't even be on the docket. You know, I mean, if you stick to the agenda, and the agenda is we're going to have a rally, we're going to, in solidarity for, you know, the fact that we thought, you know, the atrocity that happened to George Floyd or whoever at the time, because like you said, it will continue to happen. You know, Black people will be killed by the police in the United States and in the state of Connecticut. Okay, that's just the reality. And you know, we just need to stick to that. And like all this personal stuff that people want to get into. I mean, Cornell, you could imagine the personal stuff. You know, I'm not going to even tell you some of the stuff I got to deal with.
I know. I can imagine.
People want to know, you know, am I married and who am I married to? And
what does that have to do with the agenda?
What does it got to do with the agenda? Are you down for this? Are you coming for the movement? Are you coming? Are you down? You're gonna write this testimony? You're gonna call out this legislator? You're gonna call out this police department? You're gonna call out this mayor and this police chief? No. Then what do you care? What the hell do you care what I got going on personally? Nobody should care about that.
This is what I tell people. All you need to know is this: I will cover your back, and I need you to cover mine. If we can do that, then we'll be friends for life, and I will love you forever. But if you can't do that, then you got to go. You know,
like you're gone.
All you need to know is Cornell Lewis and the Self Defense Brigade will cover your back when it is necessary. That's all we need to know. Don't invite me over for dinner because I ain't coming. Don't invite me to no Christmas party. I ain't coming.
It's not coming
Don't
to that
invite
either.
me out. Now, you might be able to get me to a Dunkin' Donuts for a cup of coffee, but if you get to talking too much, I'm taking that and I'm going to leave. So,
all right, you don't ask too many questions.
You don't ask too many questions. All you need to know is this: Cornell Lewis will cover your back with the Self Defense Brigade. And if you cover mine, we'll be friends forever. And if we go someplace and something goes down, my motto is we came together, we're going to leave together, or the enemy is going to leave us all in a pile together. Nobody's running, ain't nobody ducking. That's all you need to know. Now, you got that invoice check, you know, for the security services we provided you. Give me that and let me go.
Exactly.
You know,
so I'm going to drop in our chat too on our pages tonight. Your link, because I know you have a fundraiser. And I think that everybody should just, if you got a little extra stimulus money that came in, drop it over there, because you know we need to continue to support the work that you do. It's very important work. You're saving lives. You're keeping people alive.
Well, what we do is the money you're talking about from the GoFundMe page on Facebook, Self Defense Brigade, goes to buying equipment so that we can train people. We travel all over the state training people. Sometimes the people will say Cornell Lewis and the Self Defense Brigade is coming. Most of the time they don't, because we don't want people to know where we are. And so we buy equipment so that we can train people safely and get the best effort out of them possible, because these tactics that we teach, anybody can learn, and they just may save your life. I'll give you a quick story. We trained some women from New London, and they went to a rally up in Hartford, and some Trump supporters, some men, came after them. And we taught them how to use the flag poles with the Black Lives Matter flags on them. And I showed the women that the shoulder, the elbow, and the hand are places you can hit to numb, and your opponent will lose power in one of those limbs for a short period of time. So the Trump men came after them. The women took the flag poles and did exactly what I told them. But then they went to another part of the anatomy south of the border that I had not instructed them to go to, but it was just as effective, and they made the men back up. And then the men ran at them, and the women got in a defensive posture with their hands up, with their thumbs in, ready to fight. And from what I understand, the men stopped dead in their tracks and looked at the women for about a half a minute. And I told the ladies, whenever your enemy gives you an opportunity, that is what you take, whatever the opportunity is. So when the men hesitated, the women backed out, like I showed them, with their hands up watching, and they were able to extricate themselves from the problem before the men could figure out what to do next. But they tapped them up with those flagpoles. Now, that's the kind of training I'm talking about. It's simple, it's easy, and it's something you can do to keep your opponent off of you. Because like I tell people, if you put something on somebody often enough and strong enough, they don't want that. You can weigh 100 pounds or you can be 300 pounds. If you put something on them, they're not going to keep running in there to take that punishment. And so, but you got to be determined. And we try to give people confidence and simple tools that they can use to fight in close with their hands, their feet. I tell them, use the old trick of the thumb in the eye, you know, Ric Flair. You know,
that's right.
Anything
that's
you
right.
can use to protect yourself. And so far, it has worked. Before we did this, and we've been doing it for some years, down on the down low at first, only recently have we come out public. What we've been teaching people has actually helped them to move the agenda forward and to protect themselves. And that's all we want to do. That's all we want to do.
Thank you so much.
Help people. Okay, thank you.
Well, I want to thank you so much for, coming out and talking to us about the Self Defense Brigade. It is amazing work you're doing. It's very important. It's vital. If it's ever been more vital, it's mostly vital right now.
Yes,
these are very dangerous times we're living in right now. Very dangerous. And you have to be very careful. And this part of all the rallies and all the planning has got to be, I'm just encouraging everybody to be a part of these kind of conversations. If you want to plan anything, you must have armed security that you can communicate with in your ear, and you can say, and they can tell you, and everybody has plans on if a situation breaks out, you have a plan to defend yourself and get to your vehicle and get out of there and save yourself. It is amazing.
And save the people with you. And the main point of rallies and security is this: you get in and you get out and everybody is safe.
Yes.
You want to make sure everybody is safe. And that's the purpose of the Self Defense Brigade, is to make sure everybody has a fair chance and we get out of there safe. And we are not going to be sacrificial lambs for anybody. And that is why we come legally armed to these rallies. And we have another one April 2nd. From 12 to 2 p.m. in front of City Hall in Hartford, in support of our Asian American brothers and our Asian brothers and sisters who are being attacked. So power up, Corinne, and Power Up and Self Defense Brigade are hosting this, and we plan to be there until 2 p.m. from 12 to 2, April 2nd at City Hall in Hartford. And we will have security at that particular location also.
Yeah, I mean, the Asian community, I mean, they just walked in and blew these 8 folks away. Just blew them away. And I was watching on the TV that I think one of the owners said that she always wanted to have an open business, and they didn't have the door locked with the buzzer, that type of situation. But we just, you just cannot take anything for granted. You just cannot. We can no longer operate in that sphere where we could just take these things for granted and, let your kids walk around all unattended, or, you just cannot. You cannot do it, and everybody thinks that I talk a little paranoid, but I'm absolutely not. This is very dangerous. We are very much hated and our lives are in danger. And when you say you're going to have a function like you've just announced, you know, out at the city hall in the front steps of the Hartford City Hall, everybody hears that. You know, I know we got a question in our chat that said, how do you get the word out, you know, without social media? We have to go back old school.
I'll tell you how. I'll tell you
gotta
how.
be old school.
Yeah, old school. We contact people on the phone.
On the phone.
And we tell people to show up. Now, for a long time, I never put out what I was going to do, and people showed up. But when you're working with other people, this is how they communicate. But I've always had a problem with letting your enemies or the opponents that you're going to face know what you're going to do and where you're going to be. It's just not good strategy. It's not.
It's just not.
So if you have phone, call people, you have email, but when you put it on Facebook and places like that, then of course people are going to know. Now, the event I told you about April 2nd, that's on Facebook. Okay. But for a long time, I would not let people know where we were going to be. I would not even answer the police and let them know what I was going to do. And sometimes that causes blowback. I'll give you an example. What was it? Before the Dunkin' Donuts stadium was built in downtown Hartford, there was a lack of Black and brown people working on that project. So I went down to Dunkin' Donuts Park with Morrow Monday, Connecticut, and 100 people, 8:30 in the morning. And we blocked the gate so the trucks couldn't get in and out with the material. My daddy used to work at the factory in Detroit, so I know those trucks, they got to get in and out. They cost money. We said we wanted Black and brown people to have more jobs. Okay. So we did not announce it. The police showed up and they were mad. I was across the street drinking coffee. I wasn't nowhere near the rally. They said, get Cornell first. I said, boss, I'm drinking some coffee. They said, put your hands behind you, Mr. Lewis. I said, I'm drinking some coffee. What did I do? They said, put your hands behind your back. They locked me up from 9 o'clock in the morning till 10:30 at night. Bishop and Pam Selders met me coming out of the jail in Hartford with some coffee and a donut at 11 o'clock at night. And they locked me up and said, you didn't tell us you were going to be here. Do you really think, Rhonda, they were going to let us block the entrance to that park?
Destruction? No.
Had we told them we were going to be there? No.
No way.
No, they weren't going to do that. So what we did was the Selders, I had 15 men. We kept the gates open, and the Selders came marching down the street. And I told the construction workers, here come my folks. And they looked, they said, oh my God, there's 100 of them. And, you know, they said, Clem, there's 100 of them. Look at them. And Selders and Pam came down, and we got in front of the gates, and they performed at that construction site. But guess what? We got jobs for Black and brown people.
Yes.
You know, in spite of what they were doing. But we did not let them know we were coming, and they got ticked off about that. And Rhonda, we still had 100 people with us at 8:30 in the morning.
At 8:30 in the morning, word of mouth.
Word of mouth. And that's how you do it. There was no way on earth the police were going to let us block the entrance to that stadium and keep the material from going in and out. And then they arrested me and told me I was making noise at a construction site. I said, dude, with a megaphone, that's a construction site. Well, we're arresting you for that. Oh, by the way, Rhonda, they sent a Black female and a Latina female to arrest me. Oh. A white cop told a Black and Latina female, get Cornell first. I'm drinking my coffee. I heard my name and I turned around and I said, what? They said, you're under arrest. I said, what? I ain't nowhere near the gate. I left in front of the gate. But see, they knew I planned it.
Yes. They
So
knew you planned it.
it was retaliation and it was targeting. I said, okay, that's cool. But
Wow.
that's what they
Well,
did
you know, I
because they
just
were
see these are people need to hear this. I hope everybody out there is hearing this. And if they didn't watch it now live, come back and watch it again later. We cannot continue to live on this borrowed time. And if we didn't know anything more than anything, we definitely, you cannot trust anybody. You only can trust the security that you have hired to come to your event and to keep you and your people are coming to your event safe. We had a situation where I understand I didn't go because, like I said, there was no security in place, no plan in North Haven. A wonderful young man who was, wanted to throw a rally right after. I mean, sometime after the George Floyd rally we had here in Hamden, and it was very. I mean, the cops were sitting there watching these people light up their tires and talk trash the whole time, and like everybody was like, these guys are right here. Aren't you going to do something about it? And cops are like, oh, they're not breaking any laws. So it is what it is.
Well, you can't depend on your opponents and your enemies to protect you. See, that's
you
foolish.
Cannot.
You cannot. And I think a lot of people are doing that. And again, that comes as a result of that false narrative perpetrated by pacifists that you have to follow the teachings of Martin Luther King and other people in order to change the hearts and the minds of the enemy. And I maintain that America has no morality, and if they wanted to change, they would have long before now. It's been over 400 years that this has been going on. So we have to make plans according to what we see our opponents do. That's what needs to be done. And security, armed security, is part of the equation. And we're not talking about being reckless. We're talking about being able to legally defend ourselves if necessary. But see, the narrative has always been that no matter what you do to these protesters, they're always going to praise, sing a spiritual, or hold hands and do kumbaya. Now, with the component of armed security, I'll be honest about it. These people don't know what to think, Rhonda. They don't know how to deal with the Self Defense Brigade. They really don't. And it's all legal and it's within the law. And when I tell them we're going to defend ourselves if those people attack us. So like I told the police in Manchester at the rally Corinne gave after she was spit upon, I told the police, well, if anybody comes out here and starts anything, I hope you can do your job. And I say, because if you don't, we will.
We will.
And they said, well, you're certainly within your right to protect yourself. I said, oh, but we'll give you a chance, boss man, to do your job with our tax dollars. But if you don't, we will. And so the rally went fine. Had a couple of guys came and they were chirping, running their mouth. We had a friendly discussion, as my English teacher would say. It was very fruitful discussion. I told them we were problem solvers and we solve all problems. So if they have a problem and they bring a problem to us, we're going to solve it for them. And they said, what do you mean? I said, we're going to solve the problem. I say, so you stay right out there in the street and you keep hollering. But if you come up here, then that's when we're going to solve the problem that you got. Are you threatening me, buddy? No, I'm just telling you, man. Okay, you fine? Yeah. Stay right there in the middle of the street, running his mouth. See? And so those are the kinds of things.
Problem.
Yeah, and those are the kind of things that security, can handle. Now, can security handle everything? No, but it's best to have security rather than not have security. And we have to start thinking in those terms, because for too long we've listened to leaders who have been bewitched by the motto or the motif of turn the other cheek and forgive our enemies. Dig this, Rhonda. before the enemy or our opponents even ask for forgiveness. Here we are running in the courtroom, embracing people that shot our brother while he was sitting on his couch eating ice cream in his apartment. And here you are hugging them or forgiving, what's the guy's name? Dylan Ruth.
Dylan Ruth.
Yeah,
I
people
just forgive
forgiving
him.
him.
Because God said, and okay, that's enough.
Well, why is it always that we have to forgive?
And why we always expected to forgive?
Well, see, that's the narrative that has been put forth by the leaders that have embraced this agenda of Martin Luther King, John Lewis, and Gandhi, that we are expected to forgive. Nobody expects us to defend ourselves. That is why when the Self Defense Brigade shows up, that is why we get these strange looks.
Yeah, folks.
That is why
the eyes
police
get all
look
big.
at us. Well, in many cases, we tell people that armed security is in the crowd, and everybody starts looking at each other trying to figure out who it is because ain't nobody showing nothing, right? But we are not expected to say or do anything like that. We are expected to sing a spiritual, light a candle. No, that's not going to happen. And we have a right to exist and not be denigrated or beat up or spit upon like our sister Corinne. But when that happens, you want us to somehow or another rise above it. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to defend myself and take the consequences.
Well, I am so happy we're able to talk tonight. It's 9:23. I don't want to keep you any longer, but I just really enjoy these conversations. And we're going to talk more because at some point in 2021, Heaven in Action Now will schedule something.
Okay.
I don't want to say when, and I ain't going to say where. I ain't gonna say when or where, but I'll call you offline and let you know when and where we decide to do that. And then we will make sure we have armed security because you're not going to roll up on us. You're not going to have our people scared. You're not going to have our kids scared. All right. You're not going to have any of us scared. All right. What we're going to do is have a peaceful protest. And if it stops being peaceful, then guess what? We'll be able to defend ourselves and our people. So we will have something.
We'll do that under control, and we'll do it as a last resort. As I tell the police and the state and city officials, we only defend ourselves as a last resort. But make no mistake, once the order is given, there will be no hesitation, there will be no remorse or any regret. We're going to do what we do, and then, we'll take the consequences, but we'll still be breathing, and our opponents, well, it's in God's hands.
Thank you so much, Cornell.
Okay.
Let the Lord take care of it. The Lord can take it from that. Listen, Jesus, we're going to have you take it from here.
We're going to have you take it for here. We're going to pray for them, Jesus, that the next time they try this, they come to the understanding that they need wisdom, not to try to roll on us, because we already got them once. We'll get them again.
Yes. Now, we're peaceful and nonviolent, but if you want to go there, we'll go there with you.
We'll go there with you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cornell.
Thank you.
Let's continue to stay in touch over the course of the summer. And I'm going to be calling you anyway. We're going to be talking anyway, but on an open forum like this, let's talk some more over the summer as these events continue to roll out. Cause I know people are going to be doing more events as summertime comes. So let's talk about it. All right.
And if anybody wants to know more about Self Defense Brigade, they can. It's on the page is on Facebook, as well as the GoFundMe page for donations so that we can buy equipment to help train people.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll be talking soon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care.